Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this is going to be my November wrap-up part 1. So what I've read in the first half of the month. And basically my books that I wanted to read in October, I am reading now. So we've got some horror, some witchy books, some cozy books. Let's go from lightest to darkest. So first is Kiki's Delivery Service, which I would say is a middle grade. It is originally Japanese and has been translated, and this is the book that the movie is based on. I haven't ever watched the movie, but it looks really cute, and so when I saw this book, I picked it up, and it is very sweet. It's fairly episodic. It is about a little girl turning 13, and about that time is a time for a witch to go out and find her own town to live in and live in reciprocity with, which I think is a little young. I think you still need your parents at that age, just not necessarily physically but emotionally. But it's about a kid having an adventure, and you kind of need your parents to not be in the way to have that. So that's how it is. So Kiki, her only power is that she can fly on a broom. Her mother had 2 powers. She could fly on a broom and make a sneezing medicine. And Kiki wasn't interested in that side of magic, so she never learned it. And so she has to solve all her problems of trying to take care of the village with her ability to fly. And so when she gets to a village that she likes, which is near the sea, so she can visit the beach, she sets up Kiki's Delivery Service, where she will fly your item lickety-split to whoever you want it to get to. And for various reasons, she gets into hijinks and ends up doing things that are a little bit outside that job description. She also has a cat companion who is, I believe, referred to as her familiar. His name, I believe, is Gigi, and he is very cute. I really like him. And it is all about reciprocity and kind of a anarchist utopia a little bit, because she is invited into the flower house of a baker to live, partially in return for her services to the town and partially just because the person's being nice. And then she gets her food and everything that she needs in trade from people from her services. And it's not like administered by the government and they have a witch fund or anything. It's just given by whoever has enough to share. So that was really interesting to come across that. Now I'm even more interested in the movie and want to know how it differs from the book. For example, I know that the Howl's Moving Castle Ghibli movie varies a lot from the book. It was very sweet and I really enjoyed it. 5 stars. Then we have The Only Purple House in Town. This one is it's a little bit of a romance, but I would definitely more categorize it as magical women's fiction, because the romance is, we do have the 2 perspectives and the romantic interest is the other perspective, but I would definitely say that the woman is the main character, and also that even then the romance isn't really the main focus. It's the relationships between the 2 main characters and all of their roommates and the rest of the town. Because this is about a vampire who doesn't have any powers and who has really struggled to make money and survive, who really reminded me a lot of myself. She even has a jewelry business she's not making any money off of. She inherits a great big, I think it's Victorian house as pictured on the cover, from her great aunt, I think. And so she has this house, but she doesn't have any money with which to pay the utilities or for food or anything. So she decides to rent out the rooms to various people around town. And so the first person she stumbles upon is this guy who she very briefly went to school with and who had a big crush on her in school, and who checks her social media about once a month, I think he said, just to see how she's doing, but didn't realize she was in town. And when going up to thank her for how she saved him in school, he stumbles into finding out that she needs renters and decides to rent from her. While questionable, I don't think it was creepy. If I thought it was creepy, I wouldn't have wanted to continue the book. She ends up renting out these rooms for what in my area would be a very low price. and then further lowering their price because the people who are renting from her are fairly poor, and some have some skills to help fix up the house, so she trades that for the rent instead. The second person that starts to rent from her is a grumpy old man who is one of those grumpy on the outside, you have to dig to get to the sweetness part, and I love that character type, so I was very fond of him. And then we continue to find other people who need housing and rent out to them, or just give them free rooms depending. Love that as well, and I love the relationships that start to form between the roommates. It's all very sweet. There's also a little bit of magic. There's our main character kind of discovering what might be going on with her, and then our love interest is a shapeshifter. He turns into a hawk, which is kind of fun. But the magic was very much on the down low. It was much more about these other relationships. So I really enjoyed that, and I would give this one 4 stars. Then we have Brooms. This one is set, I think, during the 1920s or 30s, and it is about underground broom races. So in this world, we have white people magic that's all based on books and tomes and spells that are written down. And then there's various magics are passed down through other people's ethnic groups, and so there's native magic and black people magic, but those are outlawed unless you get special dispensation from the government, which is of course expensive. So our 2 young girls, who I think are Afro-Indigenous, start training with some black women and a East Asian woman. I'm not sure if she's Japanese. No. I think the language that her family speaks is Cantonese. This little group who are illegal broom racers. And of course, there's betting on the illegal broom races, so you earn some prize money when you win. So our 2 young main characters start training with them. One of our main characters is deaf and uses sign language. And her sister also knows sign language and does a lot of translating for her. But there are a few other characters who also know sign language. They start training to take part in these races so they can raise the money to pay for the special dispensation to learn their own family's magic. And there's romance, and there's quite a bit of queerness, and there's of course the racing and the magic of the racing and the magic of hiding from the authorities, and it's a lot of fun. It's a graphic novel, and I think it was recommended to me by Alex of Pucks and Paperbacks on one of his little A to Z of queer books shorts recommendations. And yeah, it's just really good. 5 stars. Then we have Conjure Women. This was an audiobook that I picked up from my library. It was in their witchy books collection, which I really appreciate them having because that's very much what I'm looking for this time of year. It's got 2 main time frames. So there's slavery time and freedom time. And we bounce back and forth to kind of learn the story of what's going on. Our main character is a healer and midwife, and there's a very little bit of magic in here. And it's very unpredictable and difficult to control, but our main character is usually the one practicing it. But also some things happen that I don't think she did necessarily, that just kind of happened, and I don't know why they happened. It's a very strange book. In Freedom Time, she has had a spell going for a while that has kept anyone outside the area from knowing that this plantation has been freed. After the Civil War, during Reconstruction, the white people basically who had been enslavers basically took back all their power and just had slavery under a different name, under sharecropping. And so our main character didn't want that to happen to this place, and so she cast a sort of spell so that everybody outside of here thinks that there is a white lady in control. Somewhat about that. It's a lot about her work as a midwife and how people stop coming to her when this new preacher comes to town, and all they want is healing from him and by extension from the Christian God, and they stop wanting her wisdom to heal people and start considering her sinful. Yeah, it's pretty dark. I wouldn't call it a horror, but just dark historical stuff with it might be considered fabulism for the amount of magic and the way it's included in the story. And there's also a big focus on this child who's born with a honeycomb pattern on his skin, black eyes. I assume that means that I think the whites of his eyes are black. So he looks kind of a little creepy. But other than that, normal child. And how his mother doesn't feel very attached to him, and so our midwife kind of gets really attached to him and wants to take care of him and make sure that people don't attack him because he is a little bit creepy. And as you can see on the cover, there is a topsy-turvy doll with a black woman on top and a white woman below, and that is in kind of reference to another part of the story, which is the relationship between our main character and her kind of friend who was the white child of the head enslaver at that plantation. So I'm going to give it 4 stars. Then Don't Let the Forest In is the horror that I read this month. This one stood out to me in a recommendation because it has autistic and asexual representation. It also has gay representation, as our main character is asexual and autistic and also in love with a boy. And it's about him and his sister arriving at this boarding school for the summer. It's a, I think, American boarding school, but he's from Australia, and they've come all the way from Australia to come to this prestigious boarding school. And everybody at school is kind of weirded out that he's there. They're like, why are you back after what happened last year? And he, like, in the narration is like, what happened last year? And so, like, we kind of know from the start that he's a little bit of an unreliable narrator, because clearly everybody else knows and expects him to know what happened, and he's like, And his best friend, who he's in love with, starts being haunted by these monsters, and they don't really know where they're from, but they guess that they're from Thomas the Crush's drawings because they look a lot like the drawings. And so they start fighting them together while dealing with the rest of the unpleasantness of this boarding school. There's a fair amount of body horror and a lot of grossness, right up to my level of tolerance for grossness is where it was. Like, it was any more, I would have not wanted to read the rest of the book. This one was quite gripping and emotionally harrowing, and I thought it was really well done. And I would give this one 4.5 stars. So that's what I read in the first half of November. Never mind, actually, this is my entire November wrap-up, and I'm going to be reviewing the last 2 books that I read in the month. So first is Bindlepunk Bruja. I thoroughly enjoyed this. The 75 book challenge definitely helped me get through the first 100 pages, but after that I was just enjoying it so much. It is a great continuation. You learn more about the characters from the first book and more about the magic, and you get to enjoy more of the magic. If you like the first book, I highly recommend it, and I highly recommend that you try the first book if you haven't. Set during Prohibition in the U.S. in Kansas City, I believe. We have a Latina main character who passes for white and has a white life and a life with her family who are all darker skinned than her. She runs a speakeasy and has a crew and is trying to get more involved with the rum running industry so that she can take better care of her family, and comes up against some pretty terrible bad guys in Bindlepunk Bruja. And then we have more of that and some things that happened because of the end of the last book in Bindlepunk Cafe. 5 stars. Undead Girl Gang has a fat Latina main character, who has just lost her best friend. I actually read the first hour a while ago and don't know what happens in the first hour, but I completely understood the book, and the action really starts after that. So like 15 to 20% of the way into the book is where it actually starts, and our main character decides to bring her friend back from the dead because she is a witch. She knows a little bit about stuff and has somehow managed to find a book that has she was Wiccan, but she finds some very un-Wiccan-like spells that are more other type of witch. And one of those is to raise the dead. And she does it, except then more than just her friend comes back. Actually, 2 other girls who were recently died come back as well. And they all want to find out who murdered them. So they form the Undead Girl Gang and try to track down what's going on. I would say not that much body horror or gross stuff. Like, there's some stuff described, but it's not in detail. The mystery's fairly fun. The conclusion of the mystery makes sense. And I really liked the aspect of the 2 girls who were not the best friend were also kind of not very nice people before they died, and were kind of enemies of our main character and the best friend. So them having to work together is very interesting. This one I gave 4 stars. So those are the books I read in November. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.